Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of AI Security Podcast on my channel Security Bit. Please note that this podcast uses audio which is AI generated, but all the content is vetted by a human, which is me. Please enjoy yourselves and learn more about MCP.
So have you ever, stopped and thought about just how many AI tools are?
Well,
Yeah.
they're just popping up everywhere, right?
Yeah, it feels like every single week there's something new. And you start to wonder, okay, how do these things actually talk to each other?
Exactly. Or like connect to the stuff I already use, my calendar, my notes, whatever. How does that even work?
Well, that's pretty much what we're digging into today.
Okay.
We're focusing on something called the Model Context Protocol, MCP for short.
MCP. Okay.
And it really could be a key piece in making AI much more interconnected, more functional in the real world.
Right. Connecting all those dots. So we've looked at quite a bit on this articles, the actual documentation, even a chat with the folks who built it.
Yeah, quite a range of sources.
And the goal here is really just to, cut through the jargon, get to what's important and what's interesting about MCP.
So you walk away understanding what it is, why it matters, maybe some future possibilities too.
Exactly. Sound good?
Yeah.
Ready to jump in? Absolutely. Let's do it. So maybe start with the basics.
Yeah.
What is this model context protocol? What problem is it really trying to solve?
Okay, right. So at its heart, MCP is an open protocol. Anthropic created it.
Anthropic, okay.
And the main point is just to make it easier for AI applications, the clients as they call them, to connect with external data and tools. The servers.
Client server, got it.
Yeah, simplifying those connections. I really liked the analogy one of the creators, David, used. He called it the USB-C port for AI applications.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I like that. A universal connector.
Exactly. One standard plug for everything.
That really captures the goal. And like you said, it's this client server setup. So maybe like Claude Desktop is the client.
Right.
And then you'd have these servers offering specific functions like creating a help ticket or maybe pulling data from somewhere.
Precisely. And this whole idea, this need for a simpler connection method, that's kind of why MCP exists.
Mm-hmm.
The creators talked about solving the MN problem.
Ah, yes, the M times M problem.
Yeah. Basically, if you have MAI apps and N different services or tools, well, connecting every single one to every other one individually.
It's a nightmare. A huge, tangled mess of custom integrations.
Yeah.
Very hard to scale or manage.
Totally. So MCP tries to create that shared framework, that standard way for them to talk.
And as Justin from Anthropic mentioned, it's really about extending and enhancing the functionality of these AI apps.
Right, making them more powerful.
Yeah, and empowering more users, not just developers, to integrate AI more deeply without having to build everything from scratch each time.
Okay, so that's the why. A universal connector to solve the MN connection chaos. But what about the what? What are the actual components of MCP?
Good question. There are essentially three main building blocks here: tools, resources, and prompts.
Okay. Tools, resources, prompts. Let's start with tools.
Right. Tools were basically functions, actions the AI can take. And this is key only with your permission. Explicit user permission.
Okay, so like the examples we saw, create new ticket or update a database entry. If my AI needs to log a bug, that's a tool it uses.
Exactly. And you, the user, have to okay it first. Yes, AI, you can create that ticket.
Got it. Makes sense. What about resources?
Resources are more like .files or pieces of data the AI can read and access.
Ah, okay. Information sources?
Precisely. Think about maybe a company wiki file, like companywiki.md. An AI could use that as a resource to answer internal questions.
Okay, so tools do things, resources provide info. What's the deal with prompts then? Are they just the instructions we give the AI?
Well, yes and no. In MCP, prompts are a bit more specific. They're like templated bits of text.
Templates.
Yeah, designed to guide the AI for very specific tasks, often when it's using a tool or resource. They can help structure the AI's interaction or insert specific data points.
Interesting. So beyond my initial request, MCP has these built-in ways to give the AI more focused instructions for specific jobs.
Exactly. Helps ensure the tools are used correctly.
Okay, components make sense. Now let's get into the cool stuff. What are the key features? What makes MCP, powerful or different?
Right, this is where it gets really interesting. First off, a big design goal is model agnosticism, meaning MCP itself shouldn't care which specific large language model the client app is using, whether it's Claude, GPT-4, Gemini, whatever. the protocol should work the same way.
Oh, that's huge, especially with new models coming out all the time. You wouldn't want your integrations to break constantly.
Precisely. Build it once with MCP, and it should ideally work regardless of the underlying model changing.
Smart. What else?
Then there's this concept called roots.
Roots, like tree roots.
Sort of. Think of them as security boundaries you set up. A root defines a specific area, maybe a folder on your computer, or a part of a cloud service that a particular MCP server is allowed to interact with.
Ah, I see. So it's like creating a sandbox or a restricted zone for that server.
Exactly. It prevents a server from just accessing everything. It's a really important security layer.
Yeah, sounds crucial.
Now, here's a feature that I thought was particularly clever, maybe less obvious. Sampling.
Sampling, like taking a sample.
Kind of. Normally, the client app sends requests to the server, right?
Yeah.
With sampling, the server can actually ask the client to generate text using the client's LLM.
Wait, hang on. The server asks the client to do the AI thinking. Why?
It gives the client and therefore the user control. Imagine a server needs some text generated, maybe a summary or something.
Okay.
But maybe that server doesn't know which model you prefer, perhaps for privacy reasons or maybe cost concerns. So instead of doing a generation itself, it asks your client app to do it using your chosen model.
Ah, that is clever. So the user keeps control over which model gets used, where their data might go, and who pays the bill if there is one.
Exactly. It flips the usual interaction for LM calls, putting the user back in the driver's seat for that specific part.
I like that. Very user-centric. What other advantages does MCP offer?
Well, the push for a standardized schema is a big one. The whole point is consistency.
A standard structure for how these AI capabilities are described and accessed.
You got it. Sean Godek had this great analogy. Imagine if accessing an AI function was as easy as typing npm install at Domino's Pizza MCP server.
Huh. I love that. Order pizza via standard AI command. Okay, maybe not pizza, but you see the potential.
Yeah.
Just plug and play different AI services.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Easily discoverable, easily integrated capabilities because they all follow the same pattern.
Makes total sense.
And to actually help build this ecosystem, Anthropic has put out SDKs, software development kits.
Tools for developers.
Yeah, and languages like TypeScript, Python, Java, C#, others too, makes it way easier for people to actually build MCP clients and, importantly, MCP servers.
Right, lowers the barrier to entry, get more people building stuff.
Definitely. And we're starting to see some movement there. There are already example servers popping up for things like AWS, Cloudflare, DigitalOcean, Slack, even tools like Obsidian.
Obsidian, the note-taking app. Interesting.
Yeah. So the ecosystem is definitely nascent. It's early days. But these examples show the interest is there and the potential is being explored.
Okay, so lots of potential. This universal connector idea, the clever features like sampling, the SDKs, but connecting everything also sounds like it could open up security risks, right?
Absolutely. That's a huge consideration and something we definitely need to talk about.
So what are the main security angles here?
Well, the good news is some clients, like Claude Desktop, apparently have built-in permission management. So the user gets prompted before a tool is actually used.
Okay, that's basic but necessary. User has to approve the action.
Right, but then you run into the potential problem of, well, permission click fatigue.
Ah, yeah, like cookie banners, you just click allow all to get it out of the way.
Exactly. If users get bombarded with permission requests, they might stop paying attention and just grant overly broad access without thinking. That's a risk.
Definitely seen that happen.
And then there's something called inherited permissions. The idea that if you grant permission once,
it might automatically apply later.
potentially, yeah, in some setups. So maybe a sneaky tool asks for a harmless permission first to build trust.
And then uses that inherited trust for something dodgy later on.
It's a subtle vector. And then, of course, there's prompt injection.
Always prompt injection. How does that fit in here?
Well, imagine a malicious prompt hidden inside, say, a seemingly innocent file, like a re-AME.
Okay.
If an MCP tool reads that file and the permissions are too wide open, that hidden prompt could potentially trick the tool into doing something bad, like deleting files or sending data somewhere it shouldn't.
Whoa, so just reading a file could trigger a harmful action through a tool if you're not careful with permissions? That's concerning.
It is. It really highlights the need for vigilance. Folks like HiddenLayer who've looked into this stress that users need to be really careful about what permissions they grant, and we need to push for implementations that prioritize security.
Right. It's a shared responsibility. Developers need to build securely. Users need to be cautious.
And the MCP spec itself actually calls this out. It says explicit user consent is needed before data goes to servers, and definitely before any tool runs, because tools can represent arbitrary code execution.
Arbitrary code execution. Yeah, you got to treat that seriously.
For sure. The creators even recommend using a specific tool, the MCP inspector, to manually check the traffic between clients and servers if you're suspicious.
Okay, so they're providing tools for scrutiny. That's good. It feels like security is going to be an ongoing cat and mouse game as this evolves.
Very likely, yes. Constant vigilance and improvement will be needed.
So moving beyond the tech specs and security, what's the vibe in the wider community? Are developers excited? Are users confused? What's the reaction been?
It seems a bit mixed so far, honestly. Looking at places like Reddit, you see some folks finding it, well, a bit unclear, maybe not immediately grasping the value proposition over existing function calling.
So some skepticism, like, is this really necessary?
Yeah, a little bit of that. Isn't this just a fancy API call?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But on the flip side, you definitely see developers who do get it. They see the potential for more programmable, deeply interconnected AI systems.
Okay.
The analogy that popped up on Reddit, ODBC for AI, that seemed to resonate with some people.
ODBC, the database connector standard. Yeah, that's another good one. Like the USB-C port analogy, it frames it as a needed standardization layer.
Exactly. It helps convey that core idea.
Yeah.
So despite some maybe initial confusion, there's definitely a community forming.
Yeah.
People are building servers, experimenting. There's a cautious buzz, I'd say.
Cautious optimism.
Mm-hmm.
So the focus is shifting towards building out the actual ecosystem now, making it practical.
Precisely. And that ties into where MCP might go next. What's the future look like?
Okay, what are they thinking?
One big idea is composability.
Composability, putting things together.
Yeah. Imagine combining multiple MCP servers, maybe even having servers that act as clients to other servers to create really complex workflows.
Ugh, like building with Lego bricks. Each server is a block with a specific function and you snap them together.
That's a great way to think about it. Modular AI workflows.
Cool. What else?
They're also working on making it easier to actually find and use these servers. Things like tools, MCP Get was mentioned, and registries, places you can go to discover available MCP servers.
That seems essential. If you can't find the tools, you can't use them. Discovery is key.
Totally. And linked to that, and back to our earlier point, is trust and vetting. How do you know a server in that registry is safe?
Yeah, the million-dollar question.
It's a huge challenge they're actively working on. Alongside that is improving authorization, moving towards standards like OAuth 2.1, making permission management more robust and user-friendly than just, say, API keys.
Okay, so more sophisticated security and trust mechanisms are definitely on the roadmap.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they don't plan on creating some massive official library of standard servers.
No.
No, the expectation is more organic, that the community will naturally converge on popular, useful, and trusted servers over time.
Ah, survival of the fittest for MCP servers.
Kinda, yeah. They also really want more clients to adopt that sampling feature we talked about.
Right. The reverse LLM call for user control.
Yeah, because they see it unlocking richer, more flexible interactions. And longer term, they're looking at deeper integration into developer tools, IDEs, maybe even game engines, making MCP feel like a natural part of the dev process.
Wow, okay. So they have a pretty expansive vision for this. It's not just a protocol, it's potentially a whole new layer of the AI stack.
That seems to be the ambition, yes.
So just to kind of place MCP in the landscape, how does it relate to things people might already know, like LLM function calling or maybe AI agents?
Good question. You can definitely see MCP as a kind of standardization and significant expansion of the idea behind basic LLM function calling or tools.
So function calling is like version 1.0, and MCP is aiming to be the more robust, standardized 2.0.
That's one way to look at it. It provides a much more comprehensive framework for those external interactions. And thinking about AI agents.
Yeah, the autonomous ones.
Right. MCP could potentially be a really important foundational layer for them. A standard way for different agents or different parts within an agent to communicate with each other and the outside world.
Ah, like a common language for agents to coordinate and access tools and data.
Exactly. It's not designed as an agent framework per se, but it could be a crucial enabling piece. Imagine your email agent needing to talk to your calendar agent. MCP could be the protocol they use.
Makes sense. If agents are going to work together, they need a standard way to talk.
And one final connection, the creators explicitly mentioned being inspired by the language server protocol, LSP.
LSP, for code editors.
Yeah. LSP solved the MN problem for code editors and programming languages, connecting many editors to many languages with one standard. MCP is trying to do something similar for AI applications and the vast world of digital tools and data.
Ugh, that's a fantastic parallel, solving the same kind of connection problem, but in the AI domain.
Precisely.
Okay, this has been super insightful. So if we had to boil it all down, what's the main takeaway on the model context protocol?
I think the key thing is that MCP is a serious attempt to build a standard, an open way for AI apps to plug into the rest of the digital world. Data, tools, services, everything.
All right, creating that common language, that infrastructure for connection, back to the USB-C port for AI.
Exactly. That analogy really sticks. It's about simplifying complexity and unlocking new possibilities for integration and functionality.
But, as we've discussed, it's still early days.
Definitely. The potential is huge, but success really hinges on getting the security right, making it easy to use, and building that trusted ecosystem. It's an evolution, not a revolution yet.
So a final thought, Mary, for everyone listening. As you see these AI tools evolving, start thinking about what becomes possible if they could all talk to each other seamlessly through something like MCP. What new workflows could emerge? What efficiencies could you gain in your own work or your own interest if data and tools were connected to AI in this standardized way? It definitely opens up some fascinating possibilities beyond just what we have today.
Absolutely. The ripple effects could be quite profound, potentially changing how we interact with AI in ways we haven't even imagined yet.